Good evening, shadowy figure that secretly runs my entire YouTube channel. I'm glad you could meet with me on such short notice. I've been helping you out a lot recently, and I was just wondering if maybe you could help me with something. I've been trying to play Dragon Link, but I just can't beat the unbelievable boards that Tearlament can come up with. I guess I'm just asking if you have any advice.
Have you tried banishing a light in a dark?
That's it! Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. The most recent YCS made it clear that there's really only 3 decks capable of making a deep run right now. Tearlament, Sprite, and because God has abandoned us, Fluwandereeze. But here's the thing about a solved format. It's really easy to metagame around. So, today let's take a look at a list with the BYSTIALs to beat Tear and Sprite, and the big boys to beat Flu. Presenting, BYSTIAL Dragon Link. So here's the list. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck just got a huge redesign, but it's still the #1 place to go for a pack simulator, a card database, and a wealth of strategy articles. I personally use the site to post every 10-minute testing list and every Chalice Line Monthly Top Cut entry. Give it a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. With that, let's bust into BYSTIAL Dragon Link. Dragon Link has, for the past 5 years? Christ. Been shorthand for a deck that weaves through multiple broken dragon monsters. These include archetypal cards like the Rockets and the Gar Dragons, generic tools like Noct Division and Chaos Space, and even 2014 format all-stars like White Dragon Wyverburster and Black Dragon Collapse Serpent. This has always been in service of big boards that negate effects and hit hard, and it was a staple of high-tier competitive play for the better part of 3 years. Unfortunately, as the metagame has shifted away from shitting out as many points of interaction on your first turn, and towards extremely targeted, recursive grind games, the deck that tends to empty out its extra on turn 1 hasn't been very well positioned. Until the release of the BYSTIALs. The BYSTIALs are a series of powerful dragon monsters, most of which have the same effect. You can target a light or a dark monster in either graveyard, banish it, then summon the bad boss from your hand. Some extend further from that position, some are removal, but all of them line up extremely well versus the current metagame. In a format where Tearlament aims to mill its whole deck first turn, and even Sprite gets up to elf shenanigans, DD Crow's bigger, older brother sure is hitting a sweet spot. What's more, a large package of these monsters featuring Lubellion provides some much-needed variation in Dragon Link's formerly one-note type of interaction, using branded beasts to beat monsters that otherwise resist their negates. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, the BYSTIALs. Josh of Bean Soldier TV has been calling this one Pizza Hut, and I think I'm going to as well. You can target a light or dark monster in either graveyard, banish it, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand. This is a quick effect if your opponent controls a monster. If it's special summoned, you can activate this effect during the end phase of the turn, add a dragon monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand except for itself. Next up is 3 copies of Druid Worm. This card can target a light or dark monster in either graveyard, banish it, and if you do, special summon this card in your hand. Like the last monster, it's a quick effect if your opponent controls something. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target a special summoned monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. After that, we've got 1 copy of Serenir. This, like the other 2, allows you to target a light or dark in either graveyard. It's a quick effect if your opponent controls a monster. And if it's sent to the graveyard, you can send a BYSTIAL or a branded spell trap from your deck to the grave, except for Serenir. Finally, we're on 3 copies of the BYSTIAL Lubellion, the black sheep of the archetype, but also one of the most powerful cards printed recently. Can't be normal summoned or set, has to be special summoned from your hand or graveyard by tributing a level 6 or higher dark dragon. You can only special it once per turn this way, and you can send it from your hand to the graveyard to add a BYSTIAL from your deck to your hand, except for Lubellion. During your main phase, you can put a branded continuous spell or trap from your deck face up on your field. All those effects are hard once per turn, but you only go through 1 anyway. After that, we've got the old Dragon Link staples, 3 copies of Starliege Safer, 2 Noct Division Dragon, 1 apiece of Chaos Dragon Levianeer, Chaos Emperor Dragon, the Dragon of Armageddon, White Dragon Wyverburster, Black Dragon Collapse Serpent, and our Rockets. 2 Rocket Tracer, 1 apiece of Recharger, Synchron, and Absolouter. For spells, we're on 3 copies of Tactics Talents, 3 Dark Ruler No More, 3 Chaos Space, 3 Quick Launch, and then the one-ofs, 1 Branded Regained, which I'm just going to call Rebranded forever. It's just such a better name. 1 Boot Sector Launch, 1 Dragon Ravine, and 1 Branded Beast. In the extra deck, we have Baron de Fleur, Borreload Savage Dragon, Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend. It wins in time. Borrelen Dragon, Access Code Talker, Triple Burst Dragon, Nightmare Unicorn, Dark, Dillingerous Dragon, Romulus, Son Boral Dragon, IP Masquerena, Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres, Pisty, and Striker Dragon. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Naturia. This is a deck that absolutely horrifies me because I have never seen a piece of support as pushed as Camilla. We've got a pretty mediocre grip, to be honest. We're going to begin with a copy of Rocket Recharger. That's going to allow us to go into Striker Dragon, which adds from deck to hand nothing. Okay, well, time for plan B. Call up Gorbachev. It's time for Pizza Hut. We're going to banish this copy of Recharger, summon it, and you know what's coming, baby. It's the FTK Seals Pass. We'll add a Druid Worm to hand at end of turn. Our opponent draws a Revival Golem, and they're going to begin with an FB Goods, sending... oh gosh, Sacred Tree. A lot of once per turns on that card, I believe. They'll go for the Vernisylph and then trigger the effect of the Camilla in order to send another Sacred Tree. That'll get them a Blessing. Blessing can be activated here. We're going to chain the effect of our Druid Worm because we know they are probably going to bring out something like the Sunflower. We'll go for the Branded Beast here in order to send that to the graveyard. Then at resolution, we can use Druid Worm in order to send Camillas. They're going to be able to cycle it back once again, but we can return it to the hand with the effect of our Hieratic Seal. We'll go for Pizza Hut once again, trigger the effect on field. Unfortunately, they haven't committed to a normal summon, so they are going to be able to walk over it, but we're in a winning position from here. At end step, we're going to get Sed Retrained. We'll draw for turn. That's not a bad one. We're going to begin with new Sed. We'll activate the effect, paying 1,000, and we will bring back this Recharger. Afterwards, we're going to normal the Recharger, at which point our opponent gets to trigger the effect of Camellas for Sunflower. We're going to go for the Sed once more. That's going to get them the Mole created from Graveyard, which they will then activate in order to cycle into a Horneedle and a Stink Bug, and we will reveal we were sitting on Dark Ruler the whole time, fool. We'll go for Dillingerous here, and then afterwards we can make a Quad Boral. That Quad Boral is going to target itself in order to get back Rocket Synchron and Recharger. We'll summon the Dillingerous from Graveyard and then make Triple Burst Dragon, summon a Chaos Dragon Levy near, tuck the remaining card in hand, and it is time for Boral End Dragon. God, I love this card. It is just nature's answer to absolutely every board state. Let's clear the field, and then at end step, we will pass back to our opponent with the Beast Live. They're going to begin with Pizza Hut of their own. They can banish our copy of Triple Burst, but they can't banish our Freedom. We'll go for Boral End Dragon here, cycling this copy of Recharger in order to negate the on-field effect, and they'll concede. Our second match is up against Exosister Runic, and the reason I'm showing you this game, even though our deck matches up extremely poorly against them, is because their deck is sick as hell. They're going to begin with a copy of Martha. Martha's going to summon an Ellis from deck, and then they're going to fire off the packs in order to grab from deck to hand a copy of Sophia. From here, they can overlay for a copy of Machias. They'll activate Machias for a Returnia. Once that's added to hand, they're going to go ahead and normal summon this Stella, activate the Stella effect for a Sophia, activate the Sophia effect in order to draw a card. They'll go for Caspatel, activate the effect in order to grab from deck to hand a second Martha before overlaying for Magnifica, setting 3 and passing. At end step, we're going to go for Pizza Hut, and then we'll activate the Pizza Hut, at which point our opponent is going to activate the effect of Magnifica in order to banish our monster. No big deal, it's just fuel for the Sed. We'll go for the Lubellion here. They'll Called by the Grave. Sheesh, that's pretty important. Okay, let's go ahead and set Sed here. We're going to activate the effect of the Sed in order to cycle back this copy of Magnamut, and then afterwards we'll return to Pizza Hut, banishing the Caspatel, triggering the effect of the Magnamut on field, and then chaining the effect of Quick Launch so we can go into Tracer. Tracer is a 4, which enables a Baron to Fleur, as we go into another Quick Launch for a Rocket Synchron. We're going to go into Striker Dragon, activate the effect in order to grab a Boot Sector launch, then trigger Striker Dragon in order to cycle this copy of Tracer. We'll go for Chaos Space here, pitching the Tracer, and then afterwards summoning the White Dragon Wyver Burster. We're going to go for Chaos Space to cycle, and then we'll go for the Druid Worm, at which point our opponent will activate Magnifica, then activate on a new chain the effect of the Machias, as well as the effect of the Returnia, which is going to banish our Druid Worm, and the Freezing Chains, which is going to contest our Baron. I was really hoping that they didn't have one more piece of negation, but I wasn't really expecting Runic, to be honest. That's pretty much the game. Not a lot we could do from here. We can send an Absoritor, which gets us an additional copy of Tracer, but we have nothing to do with it. We'll walk into this Machias and pass back to our opponent before conceding. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on Tearlament Sprite, and they're going first, so good luck to us. They're going to begin with a copy of Sheeran. That Sheeran's going to send from hand to graveyard a copy of Rhino Heart. They're going to trigger the effect of the Rhino Heart and the Sheeran that they milled in sequence in order to send a copy of Havness from hand to graveyard and then use it as material for a Kitkalos. They're going to trigger the Kitkalos and the Rhino Heart in sequence, sending a Sheeran and grabbing a copy of Merly before activating the Kitkalos effect to do the old Yoinky Sploinky and mill 8. They're going to do that now, and boy, are there some hits in here. They're going to go for Hoff and the effect of Celiac. That Hoff is going to put back the Kitkalos for a Lulu, and then the Celiac is going to go ahead and grab them Hoff. They're going to go for a blue here in order to go into Sprint. They'll activate Sprint. They have not yet triggered the effect of the Merly, so they'll do that now, shuffling back the Sheeran for a Garua. And then they're going to go for Gigantic, activating Gigantic's effect for Eebly, making an Elf, giving us Eebly, triggering the effect of Garua to draw a card, and then summoning the Jet, activating the Jet for a starter, and link summoning a copy of Beat Cop, which they can then use to protect the Eebly as well. If you are not prepared for this interaction, be excited for your next YCS experience. We'll draw for turn, and this is not bad. We're going to normal summon a copy of Rocket Synchron. They're going to go for Sprite Elf. That's going to bring back the Merly, which will trigger, sending 3. One of those 3 was Heartbeat. They're going to go for Masquerena as Chainlink 2 to make Sprint once again. Sprint will trigger here in order to send a Merly from deck, which can then trigger in order to shuffle itself back alongside a Sheeran for a Kitkalos. They'll activate the effect of the Kitkalos in order to send to the graveyard a copy of Rhino Heart, which they can then summon, sending this copy of Celiac to the graveyard and triggering both effects, adding a copy of Sheeran to hand and sending a Sheeran to the graveyard, which they can then use in order to make, you guessed it, Kaleido Heart. Kaleido Heart is going to send the Rocket Synchron and our turn, comrade. Unfortunately, I have triple tack, so we'll go ahead and take their most powerful monster and make Dark. Afterwards, we'll go quick launch for a Rocket Tracer, special the Absolouter Dragon, and go into quad. From here, we'll trigger the effect of the Absolouter and then activate the effect of quad targeting the Elf. They're going to summon Hoffiness in response, but they don't really have anything they haven't used yet. We're going to go for Unicorn, activate the effect of Unicorn to spin this copy of Kaleido Heart, and then it's Borland time, baby. Let's see you out this monstrosity. We'll get in for a fair amount of damage, and then pass back turn to our opponent. They'll draw for turn, and that's a good one. They're going to go Nimble Beaver, and I do fall for it here. I go for the Borland. That's going to negate it and cycle back the Recharger, at which point our opponent's going to reveal that they have Grief set and get a Hoffiness, send it to the graveyard, and cycle that and the Kitkalos into a Dragastapelia. Afterwards, I can instant fusion into a copy of Kitkalos and trigger the effect of the Kitkalos in order to grab from deck to hand a Celiac. Kitkalos will trigger here in order to cycle into the Lulu, triggering the Kitkalos effect to mill 5, and the Angler effect to summon a Beaver from deck. From here, they can go back into Elf and activate Elf's effect to bring back red, and then set the Celiac as well. Now, they don't still have it out for the Borland Dragon yet, but the Celiac will make quick work of it eventually. They're going to activate Celiac. We will Borland, targeting the Dragastapelia here and bringing back the Tracer, and then afterwards, we can go into a Striker Dragon, trigger that effect. That will be responded to with the Elf into a Masquerena. They are now 2 locked. We're going to go for the Striker Dragon, and then afterwards, they're going to chain the effect of red in order to negate it. They'll then Celiac to negate the effect of the Borland Dragon and IP Masquerena into, oh, I guess they weren't 2 locked at all. I should read cards. I play this deck. They make Access Code Talker. We will go for the Magnamute here in order to make Baron de Fleur and pop the Access Code Talker. Speaking of reading cards, we'll trigger the effect of the Magnamute at end step and pass back to our opponent. They draw for turn another copy of Sheeran. They're going to go for Access Code Talker, clearing our entire field here, unfortunately, before following it up with a Sheeran. That's going to mill a ton of cards, but it also gives us a really good target for this Druid Worm. Afterwards, we're going to go into a Dark, use the effect of Dark in order to get a Borland Dragon, but this card does a lot less if you don't have rockets in your graveyard. We're going to use Druid Worm to pop their Dark, and they don't have targets. We draw for turn. It's a Serenir. Sick. We're going to go for the Boot Sector launch here in order to bring back the Rocket Recharger and summon the Tracer. We'll go into Savage, activate the effect of the Savage in order to grab a Unicorn, go to the battle phase, and they'll just take 600. We'll pass back to them. We need them to not draw a tier. They drew a tier. They're going to go for Merly here. They're going to activate the effect of the Celiac. We have to negate the Celiac in order to prevent the negation of our Savage Dragon, so it can't be run over by the Borland. They're going to go down to 5 cards in deck. We will draw for turn. They'll Celiac again. We will Savage Dragon, and as long as that set card is a bluff, we do have lethal. Oh, wow, what a game 1. So it's time for game 2, and okay, this is a pretty decent grip. We've got Druid Worm and Pizza Hut in our hand, but our opponent has the best card in their deck, Instant Fusion. They're going to begin with a Kitkalos. They'll activate Kitkalos in order to grab a Celiac from deck to hand before normal summoning a Nimble Beaver and summoning an Angler from deck. They're going to special summon Blue afterwards in order to grab themselves a copy of Jet, then summon the Jet in order to grab from deck to hand a copy of Smashers. From here, they're going to make Sprint. They'll use Sprint to send a copy of Merly, but not activate it yet. They're going to cycle it out for the Kitkalos and then mill 8. Here comes the Yoinky Sploinky, and yeah, consider me yoinked and sploinked. They hit a Celiac and a Hoffiness. We can activate Pizza Hut to blank the Hoffiness. They're going to use Celiac, and then afterwards we can activate the effect of the Magnamute, which unfortunately procs the Hoffiness in our opponent's hand, but they don't hit anything. They're going to go for Gigantic and Elf afterwards before specialing a Sheeran, triggering the effect of the Merly. We will trigger Druid Worm. They will trigger Elf, targeting Merly in response, and then afterwards they're able to make an IP Masquerena and tag into a Nightmare Corruptor Ibly. From here they can go into Beat Cop once again, using the effect to prevent any special summoning, setting 2, and passing. We do get to resolve the effect of the Pizza Hut. Ibly's not so bad when we have Pizza Hut on our side of the field, but now we don't. Okay, well, we can Dark Ruler everything. They will respond with Celiac and then chain the effect of the Elf. That's going to be really frustrating. We'll go for Chaos Space here, and we do have some plays just by going through Absolouter and normal summoning the Seifert. They're going to go for the Celiac here, sending this copy of Merly, then triggering the Merly, shuffling back 3 monsters in order to make Kaleido Heart, and keeping our zones free of monsters we could use to link off this Ibly. We're going to go for Bisted Lubellion here and pass turn, but we do have a lot in the tank. They've got a Merly in hand. They're going to go for the Elf, bringing back the Sprind. Afterwards, they're going to make another Sprind, use it to send a copy of Merly to the graveyard, then trigger the Merly, shuffling the Merly and the Kitkalos back for Lulu. Afterwards, they're going to go for a Merly again, milling 3, thankfully missing. They're going to negate with the effect of Sulliek in battle phase, triggering the effect of the Lulu and the effect of the Kaleido Heart in sequence. We're going to chain the effect of the Druid Worm. They bring back the Lulu, attack the Druid Worm. We'll trigger the Druid Worm to send the Lulu. They'll get in for 3k, for 14, for 14, and for 8, that's not close to lethal. Here we can use Magnamoot at end phase to banish the Beat Cop and then grab ourselves a copy of New Sed. We'll draw for turn, and yeah, we can make this work. We're going to go for Lubellion. That's going to fetch out the Sulliek. They're going to send this copy of Merly, then trigger the effect of the Merly in order to put back the Lulu, in order to go into Kitkalos, the Kitkalos in order to send to the graveyard a copy of Sheeran, and the Sheeran to tag back into a copy of Lulu, and to trigger the effect of the Kaleido Heart to shuffle the Bisted Lubellion. Frustrating, but we have Dark Ruler no more. Afterwards, we're going to go for Sed. We're going to activate Sed, going down to 400 life points total in order to get back this Pizza Hut. We'll activate Pizza Hut's effect, banishing the Sheeran, and then activating its effect on field before normal summoning a Tracer and going into Striker Dragon. We'll trigger Striker Dragon for a Boot Sector launch, activate that, and then afterwards we'll activate the effect of the Boot Sector launch to bring back Rocket Tracer, so we can go into Dark and a Pisty. We're going to special summon this Levianeer as material for a triple burst, so we can activate Pisty and bring back Absolouter Dragon. We'll go for the Borland here and trigger the effect of the Absolouter Dragon before going to battle and performing cleanup duty. We just need them to not draw a Tearlament. That is literally the best possible draw remaining in the deck. They'll go for Grief in order to send a copy of Myru. They're going to activate the effect of the Merly once again in order to go into Kitkalos. They'll activate Sulliek here. We'll activate the effect of the Boral and targeting the Kitkalos, which is terrible news because it's still going to trigger in graveyard, milling 5. After they mill 5, they can trigger Heartbeat in order to cycle a Sulliek, but ooh. Okay, all you need is one whiff. We're going to normal summon this copy of Rocket Synchron so we can go into Borreload Savage Dragon, and I think we've actually walked away with this one. We're going to equip the triple burst, switch these monsters to attack position, and get in for lethal. This format, man. Oh my god. So we're back with the deck, and ooh, it's been a while since we got it in 2. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, it's good into tier. If you could guarantee you played tier and only tier for the entirety of a YCS run, this would be the deck for you. 2, Borland. What the hell? Why is this card allowed to exist? And 3, previously this deck had an unreal weakness to Dark Ruler No More, which rebranded and branded Beast all but resolve. And the cons. 1, it bricks. This wasn't a problem with the deck before BYSTIAL, but if you draw too many of the big bunguses, you can easily spend your first turn looking at a grip of 6s and passing. 2, it's maybe a little too teched out. If you run into something like Fluandereeze, say a Silent Prayer for your side deck. And 3, people aren't playing as much of it anymore, but setting Fallen of Albaz is still an FTK. All in all, Dragon Link's back, baby, for as long as we expect Tearlament to be Tier 1. Should I bet on Duelist A or Duelist B?
Duelist B, boy.
You're just like a gremlin now.
Come with me.